So for step 25, the wheel assembly. Well, we've got to grab all of the parts for this for the front and the rear wheels because they are three-piece wheels, and we have the center inserts that we need to put into the wheels as well. Now, this reminded me a great deal of the Frog, and I was a little concerned as to whether it would be as hard as what you have with the Frog wheels. But it actually, I did one of them and put them in, and it actually went in as they show you. So the rubber itself is a lot more pliable than the Frog tires, which is interesting. So this should go a little smoother. So I'll show you how they're doing it the way it is actually is in the instruction. So I have the tires here, and I have a finished tire here. Now I've tweaked it a bit because I wasn't sure whether I wanted to leave the wheels the sand color. It just seemed like the whole car as a whole is all sand, so with the wheels being the same color, it seems like it's too much. Plus the fact, if you look at the box, the wheels are green. So I decided that I would go with that NATO green color, and I've painted them. So I did this one, and you can see that it's all painted up, and I've actually chromed the rivets that you can see in there. So I'll show you how I'm doing that as well. But I'm happy with that look, so we're going to do the other wheels the same. I don't think I'm going to do the white letter tires, just because of the type of vehicle this is. It was designed so that it doesn't stand out, and I just think that might be a little too much, so I'm not going to do that. But let's get on to building these wheels. So I'll set this all up, and we'll put those initial inserts in. So one of the other things I'll show you too is that because these are three-piece wheels, some of these parts cover the other part, etc., etc. So I wasn't sure how I wanted to paint these, and when I was doing the test, I was discovering that a lot of this is covered up. So I haven't painted this entirely. It's kind of got a top coat, that's it, and I'm not doing the whole thing because a lot of this is actually inside the wheel and hidden. So I think what we'll do is and I'll show you what I mean. I'm gonna snip off this part here because we're gonna work with F1, F2, which you can see here, F1, F2. I already snipped that one off. There's F1. Let's get the insert out of there, and then we've got the back side of the wheel as well is off of this one. There we go. So if we grab our front wheel, you can see how they're wanting you to do this. So it's basically just push it in and then turn. And you're going to find the fronts are always easier to do, but it will go in. There we go. Mostly in. It's catching on something. There we go. So you see how it's the green, or the edging is all inside of the wheel. So I didn't see any point in painting that. So initially what I'm going to do here, and I think we'll use, I don't know, let's go with this as the outside. We'll line this up. And what I found, oh no, we have to use this side because you see how one's got a lot deeper indentation and this one doesn't? Well, that's because that is the smaller raised area is facing the front. So that's got to be our front piece. Now I'm going to show you what I did for the other one. And I mean, we've got lots of these screws that we're going to need to use, but I'm just going to pull out a few at the moment just so I can show you here. Is that I was using the screw as a way of trying to help with the alignment when you're pushing this in place. So we know that's on one side, and now that's got to sit on the back side, and we know it's got to go through that hole, so it should fit into place like that. And of course it's going to pull itself in as, you know, once we've got these screws in place. So let's say if we use that right there, we'll use the smaller screwdriver. I'm just going to pull it in a little bit. And I'll grab the other one. And I'll grab one from the other side. So let's say we'll put this one in here. It's going through to the other side. We'll put the nut there. And then I can pull it in, which it's doing. So I'll pull that, I'll screw that one in a bit more too. And that's at least two of them. Good. And then we'll continue. Now, I'm going to get all the screws out of this bag first, and then I'll come back, and then we'll continue putting the screws all around the wheel. Okay, so I've got the other ones out, so we'll grab the nut. Get that nut in place. There we go. And screw that in. Grab another screw. Grab the nut. There we go. And now I can screw that one in. And last one, put that nut in there. Make sure that's correct. Okay, so now that all of the nuts are in, I'm just going to go back and forth and tighten them all up and kind of crisscross just like you would on a real car, because as this tightens in, and you don't want to over tighten, but you also don't want to make sure that they're definitely tight. Some will grip really well, others might take a little bit of doing, but you see I'm already at the end on that one, so I'll just now go around, and you can pretty much tell that you're at the end. You know, you obviously don't want to torque on it because you will strip something or break something, but as a whole, we'll just go through and make sure everything's tight. There we go. There we go. And there we go. So there is one of our front wheels. Now, it's going to be okay. I'm not going to need to repaint this because we've got a bearing that goes on this side, we've got a bearing that goes on that side, and it'll be ready to go. But the one thing I can show you is the chroming. I have this chrome paint marker. I'll just give it a little bit of a shake, but I've already used it just recently. So I'll show you. This is pretty simple because it's raised. If you just give it a little just sort of spin this on the top. And don't put a lot of pressure. You can see that it actually comes out quite nice and covers those rivets really well. Whoops, I slipped on that one, so I've painted it, but it won't matter. And there we go. So there are all of the rivets painted up as well. And I may tweak this, you know, I might put a little bit more green on this now that it's actually in the tire, just to finish it off. But that is how it will look. Very, very cool. So what's left is to work on a rear tire, and I will show you that because that's the one that is what I consider to be the harder one to do. And this would be more or less similar to what it would be like if you were putting a wheel into a frog, which, let's just do a little, remove a little bit of the excess plastic just so that it's not going to cause us any grief. And this obviously is what's facing out, so I've only painted the inside because all of this is going to be seen or isn't going to be seen. It'll be inside the tire. So if we stick with how they're showing you putting this on, we're going to push in, and once it gets to a certain point, you can actually twist. And you can tell that it's going inside the wheel. There we go. Now it requires a little bit of elbow grease to get it in there, but it's nothing like a frog wheel because the frog tires are just so tight inside here and they're not that pliable, but this isn't so bad. So there we go. There we have our insert inside the tire. So same thing again. We're going to grab our rear insert pieces. And we're going to do the same thing again. Now you'll notice that one side has the cone, one does not. The cone is what is facing outwards. So you want this piece to be sitting on the front. There we go. And same thing again, I'm going to stick one of the screws into the wheel. Come on. There we go. And we'll grab one of the nuts. After we put that on top, there we go. Put the nut there, and I'll start screwing that in. There we go. So again, I'm going to go right across to the other side, making sure that it's actually going into the right spot. grab the nut. Make sure that's in the right spot. And let's see what happens if we get that screw in there. Wrong one, but that's okay. Well, that is the right one. There. And again, cross over, grab a nut. It's in there, so I've got my finger on the nut itself so that I can go back to this side and screw it in without it coming out. And we've got this one here, same idea. Got the nut, finger on the nut. That one doesn't seem to want to sit properly. There we go. Let's get that back in there. And one last one. So let's get the nut. It's in there. Okay, so now that they're all in, I'm going to start screwing them down. And going sort of crisscross. That actually snapped into place. That's in place. So some of the plastic might not have been down all the way because you heard that snap. Well, it basically snapped the plastic flat, and now these are loose a little bit again, and I'm just retightening because now they were all slightly loose, but they're all nice and tight now. So there we go. There is a rear tire complete. So we'll do that one last thing, where we'll chrome up the rivets. Which I think looks really good. It just adds to it. I'm sure that, you know, over time this may wear off. I can always do it again. But it kind of adds to the wheel itself. I just think it looks really quite cool. So there we go. There is a rear tire. You've seen me do a front tire, and then of course I had the one that I did before. I'm just going to go ahead and do the other tire, and then we'll quickly take a look at them all and we'll move on. So there we go. All 4 tires are ready to be installed. Very, very cool. And yeah, I kind of like the look of the rivets getting the sort of the chrome look to it, especially if I'm not going to do the tire lettering. It just adds a little bit to the wheels. So that's it for step 25. So we're going to move into step 26 now, and we're going to attach the wheels.